Hey there, are you thinking about selling on Amazon's international marketplaces outside of the US, but you're a little concerned about what is that going to have the effect on my tax situation, or what effect would that have on my tax situation, if I can get the words out there properly? Well, anyway, my name is Kevin, and I'm from MaximizingEcommerce.com. I help people build e-commerce businesses that they can be proud of, and I get that question quite a bit. I help people grow into other marketplaces, as well as I am also a seller on many of Amazon's international marketplaces. So I've got a little bit of experience here. However, please take anything I'm telling you here with a bit of a grain of salt. Use it more as your research and to arm you with some information, so when you are talking to a qualified tax professional about your individual situation, you at least know a little bit more about what you're talking about, at least what type of questions you might ask. So to get into it, let's just assume you're selling on Amazon.com and you have a US-based company. So this is just our assumption here. Now, if that's not exactly the case with you, you can follow along here, and I'm sure you can probably fill in some of the blanks of your country instead of maybe the US or something along those lines. This will hopefully at least help you get your research started. So if you're selling in an international marketplace, there's going to be two main buckets: sales tax and income tax. Because remember, you can never you can never get away from taxes. They definitely don't want you to get away with not paying taxes. So you got to pay your taxes. And to keep in mind, in the international marketplaces, it's not that much different than in the US, where you have those two different buckets: income tax and sales tax. So in the US, we have income tax, and it's on all these different states, and the states have their own filing systems and how you report and register and all that fun stuff. And in the US, you put in your registration numbers for the states that you're registered in. Amazon will then charge the customer that sales tax. You have that sales tax collected, and so whether it's quarterly, monthly, yearly, whatever system you're on for that particular state, you file that. Well, the nice thing is, I have found, as much as it's complex keeping up with all these different states and all their different requirements in the US, it's a little bit simpler, believe it or not, in some of these foreign countries. So for example, in Canada, they have what's called GST. It's also referred to as HST. It's like Goods and Services Tax and Harmonized Services Tax. We'll just call it all GST. GST we'll just call as their federal sales tax. So like in the US, where if you buy something that's $100, and let's just say hypothetically in the province they live in, it's 8% GST or whatever other taxes involved. Some have a provincial sales tax, whatever the case is. Let's just say it's 8%. Now the customer is going to pay $108. So it's that simple. So if, let's just say, you're in Canada, you have to register for this GST if you have at least $30,000 in worldwide sales. Now, to keep in mind, at the time we're recording this $30,000 number, that's a Canadian dollar number. That's not a US dollar number. So that's more closer to around $22,000, $23,000 in worldwide sales. So my suggestion is go ahead and just register for it, even if you're on the cusp. Assume you're going to be doing at least $22,000. If you're doing enough that you're considering going into Canada, I would at least register if you're already selling in the US. It's a simple form. You file once per year. And like, for example, if you're selling less than $1.5 million Canadian in Canada, not even the whole world, but just in Canada, if you're doing less than $1.5 million, you only file once per year. Now that could change, so of course, double check this information depending on when you're watching this, but once a year is pretty simple. And it's not an overly complex form. You could potentially DIY it if you're not comfortable with that. There's lots of accountants that can help you with this. Remember, this is all stuff you can easily offboard to someone else. You can hire qualified bookkeepers to help you with compiling the information. There's CPAs here in the US, there's CPAs in Canada and some of these other countries that, trust me, they would love to help you with it. So don't feel that like you have to take all this on. So if you think there's an opportunity, don't let taxes get in the way of your opportunity, because it's really not that complicated. I can assure you that. So in the UK and the rest of Europe, as I record this, there's value-added tax. So value-added tax is kind of like their sales tax, except what's different is it's included in the sale price. So in my example, so let's say 100 Canadian dollars and it was 8%, it was $108 is what the customer got charged. Here, if it's 100 pounds, they're actually going to take out 1/6 of that to be the VAT, and that's what you're going to give to the government. And chances are you're probably going to end up filing quarterly. Simple form to fill out. I will tell you this, having personally registered in these two countries, if you have a driver's license or a passport, you have successfully completed a form that is just as difficult as the form that it takes to register for either of these. It's not hard at all. I guarantee you probably have some level of identification, some government form you filled out with name, address, stuff like that. You can handle these forms. Trust me, it's not all that complex. But you can register in these countries and start selling once you've got your sales tax taken care of. Then now let's talk about our other big bucket. The other big bucket is going to be income tax. So assuming you're in the US, talk to your CPA. Again, I am not a tax professional. I can only speak to my own experience and what I've seen. But generally speaking, if you are selling in these marketplaces, whether it's because of the treaties we have currently or just whatever the case is, you're going to, even though you are getting revenue in these countries, they want their money for their sales taxes. Uncle Sam still wants his money for your income tax. So based on whatever profits you acquired as a result of selling in these marketplaces. Now you may be saying, well, that's not fair, da, da, da. Even though the money was made on foreign soil, you're still a US based company and you're still a US citizen. So now if you have like a C Corp and it's not in the US, this is outside of my realm of understanding. So please talk to your tax professional. But the average person who has maybe an LLC or an S Corp, that money is going to all flow down to you, generally speaking. Again, talk to your tax professional, but generally speaking, it's going to flow down to you, and that profit is going to be income that you would have to pay income tax on in the US. And the nice thing is selling on Amazon is if you have at least $20,000 or whatever their threshold is at the time you're watching this, of sales and the correct number of transactions, they're going to issue you a 1099 form, just like they do in the US. So it's basically almost kind of like, when you have a job, you get a W-2 at the end of the year. It's basically like, hey, here's your sales. Includes a few other things like promotions and a few other things in there. But generally speaking, just to make it simple, we'll call it sales. So your 1099 form, just like you get in the US, you're also going to get in Canada, and you also get another one for Europe. And then if you're in Japan and you have the, wherever you are, they're going to give you a 1099. So that makes it simple. Now, if you have less than that threshold, like maybe you just got started or whatever the case is, no worries. You can just pull whatever sales reports, give them to your accountant. You may have to figure out the nice thing is the 1099 is in US dollars, but if you give any sales reports to your accountant, generally speaking, it's going to be in whatever the local currency is, but it's not hard. It's literally 6th grade level math to say this amount of US dollars is this amount of British pounds or this amount of Canadian dollars. So don't worry too much about that. So my suggestion is if you think it might be a good opportunity for you to sell in international marketplaces and you're letting taxes be the reason that holds you back, remember, if you are paying more income tax, what does that mean? You're making more money. If you're paying more to these countries in sales tax, why is that? Because you have more sales. So more sales and more income equals more profit. So let that be a good thing. So let that sink in there for a moment. And again, it's not all that complex to get registered and get started. So I would not let that get in the way. Now, if you're curious what other steps are involved, I've got this here for you. So if you're interested, you can go to canadachecklist.com. I've put together this little checklist. We'll call it a kind of a mini guide where it walks through step by step what you need to do to get registered in Canada and start selling on Canada's international marketplaces, how to validate your product, how to get your listings up, all that fun stuff. It'll walk you through step by step what you need to do so that you can get up and running. And at the time I'm recording this, I just have this available for Canada. If you think you're interested in finding out more about Europe, let me know maybe in the comments or shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to consider that if there is demand for people to have me do a guide like that for Europe. But for now, I do have that available for Canada if you go over to CanadaChecklist.com. So again, if you are thinking that it makes sense to you to sell in Amazon's international marketplaces, please, please, please do not let taxes get in your way. You're already handling taxes, and I will pretty much guarantee you're going to find, especially in Canada, it's simpler than it is in the US. Now, there's some little bit of complexities, and as I record this, we don't even fully know what's going to happen with Brexit. So depending on when you're watching this in the future, you might be like, dude, everything you're saying about UK is off. Well, there'll be more information. If there's more updated information, will come up with a new updated video. But for now, no, VAT is what they have in the UK, and there are still, as I record this, there's still potentially going to be some trade arrangements between the other European countries. So it's fairly simple. So don't let it get in the way. Do a little bit more research. Talk to a tax professional. And if you're interested in getting started and you want to know what mechanics you need to do so you can start making some additional sales in these foreign marketplaces to get you more profit so that you can be paying more income tax, so you have the pleasure of giving Uncle Sam more income tax, trust me, you're doing the world a good favor. Just go to CanadaChecklist.com so I can help walk you through what those steps are. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. If you found this helpful, please give us a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing so that way I can let you know when other videos become available. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I wish you the best in your e-commerce journey. Take care.